Hey, it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. So, today we are going to dive into this rabbit hole that I have been going with these essay cases involving big name people such as Diddy, Epstein, and Donald Trump. One thing that I do see that they have in common is these parties, these lavish parties that they all attend. So I'm really side eyeing a lot of people, including Mr. Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure you guys seen on the news that somebody powed at his rally in Pennsylvania and he was injured. I am throwing up my quotations using my fingers. But it is reported that Trump is safe, and the shooter and another rally goer has been unalived. So I'm pretty sure more stories are going to come out. But today, what I want to talk about is what people are not really talking about. We see people such as Diddy and Kanye coming out with all these essay allegations. Well, not so much Kanye, he's on a whole different legal path, but prominently Diddy, um prior to, years prior to this, dealing with Epstein, on some of those essay allegations. And I just feel that if they would have treated it like a urgent matter, if they took it serious, then a lot of stuff could have been prevented. But here we are. But um I stumbled across a article that was talking about Epstein and Trump. And as I'm reading, there it talks about a young woman who was great as a teenager, and she has filed several suits that have been dismissed voluntarily. This particular suit that I'm going to discuss today was filed, and this was the last one that she filed. It was filed in 2016, and mysteriously, November 4th, 2016, she filed a voluntary motion or a voluntary dismissal. And this is 4 days before Trump was elected for president. It makes you wonder. So let's hop into this. So this article is from Politico. Shout out to them. It says woman suing Trump over alleged teen rape drops suit again. And this article was written November 4th, 2016, the day that she actually filed the voluntary dismissal. It says a woman who accused Donald Trump of raping her 2 decades ago when she was a 13-year-old aspiring teen model has again dropped a federal lawsuit over the alleged assaults. The accuser, identified in the lawsuit by the pseudonym Jane Doe, was expected to appear at a news conference in Los Angeles on Wednesday, but the appearance was abruptly canceled. The lawyer who organized the event, Lisa Bloom, said Trump's accuser had received threats and was too frightened to show up. In the most recent suit, Trump's accuser asserted that while she was exploring a modeling career in 1994, she attended a series of parties at the Manhattan home of prominent investor Jeffrey Epstein. She alleges that during those parties, the real estate mogul tied her to a bed and raped her. She also claimed Epstein raped her during the series of gatherings. The accuser's lead attorney, Thomas Mager of New Jersey, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. He filed a one-page notice dismissing the case Friday evening in federal court in Manhattan. No explanation was given for the action. Bloom did not immediately respond to the request for comment on Friday. Through his attorney, Trump had flatly denied the woman's allegations. It is categorically untrue. It is completely frivolous. It is baseless. It is irresponsible, Trump attorney Alan Garten told Politico in September. I won't even discuss the merits because it gives it credibility that it doesn't deserve. Doe named Trump and Epstein as defendants in the suits and says they knew she was well under 17, the age of consent. I understand that both Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein knew that I was 13 years old, she wrote. Two earlier lawsuits were filed over the same alleged events. And yeah, I'll read a little bit further. The filed suit of the alleged grapes was filed in federal court in Riverside, California in April by someone acting without an attorney and using the name Katie Johnson. That suit named both Trump and Epstein as defendants, alleging that the two men held Johnson as a slave. I don't even want to say it, a slave, and repeatedly forced her to engage in lady of the night activities against her will. Subsequent news reports raised doubts about who filed the suit. Johnson claimed that she had $300 in assets and that she was living at home in her 29 Palms, California, but Radar Online reported neighbors said that the home has been foreclosed upon and vacant since its owner died were unalived last year. U.S. District Court Judge Dolly G. dismissed that case in May, ruling that Johnson's complaint did not raise a valid claim under federal law. G, an appointee of President Barack Obama, noted that the suit cited a criminal statute that does not give rise to civil damages, and that the civil statute Johnson cited only applies to actions based on race based or class based amnesty. Another version of the suit was filed in federal court in June, but withdrawn in September after apparently never being served on the defendants. So this is all happening in 2016. And mind you, that Trump is, campaigning or running for presidency. The case was refiled later that month. The second and third iterations of the complaint accused Trump of only a single act of rape, but said that he had contact with the accuser on three other occasions. A declaration from an anonymous writer attached to her letter suits continued to accuse Trump of four acts of rape or SA. A lawyer at Epstein declined to comment on the lawsuits. About a decade ago, Epstein came under investigation by local and federal authorities near his Palm Beach, Florida home. Allegations that he solicited underage girls to have intercourse with him at the residence and another on an island he owned in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Epstein pleaded guilty in June 2008 to state felony charges relating to the prostitution and was sentenced to 18 months in jail. He served only 13 months before being released, but was required to register as a offender. That's interesting. Only 13 months. But oh man, I tell you, the rabbit hole goes further and further and further and further and further. With Epstein, a lot of documents came out listing Trump. I'm talking about receipts, y'all, and I'm digging through those, and hopefully I can get you guys a show on that because I want everybody to be aware we cannot let these people get away. Epstein got away because of what he did to himself in jail. And that was unfortunate because justice definitely needed to be served. What's going on with Diddy? I hope justice is served. And Trump, justice needs to be served as well. Nobody is above the law. There's so many times that Trump has been connected with Epstein and he lies about it. This man literally lies about it. I wanted to there was a video on here, but he literally lies about it. And it's crazy. He has made comments stating that Epstein was a great guy. He loved younger women. Like, why would you put stuff out there like that? And look what turned up. Yes. So let's get into the actual petition that was filed. And we're going to look at the last complaint that was filed. Um, And to me, it's just so weird that this complaint was filed And 4 days before he was elected president of the United States of America, it was dismissed by this young lady. And it's alleged that threats was made to her and her family. And if that is the truth, I don't know why nobody has digged into that to get clarification, validation, or whatever. Somebody needs to dig into when are we going to help, hold these people accountable? Epstein, if he was still alive, I hope they would have threw the book at him, because 13 months was absolutely nothing. This man got to do work release and was able to go to his job, and no telling what he did during the time, but then go back to and serve his time every single day. Make that make sense. So here we have Jane Doe, and then we have the defendants Donald Trump and Epstein. And this is a complaint for rape, misconduct, criminal acts, abuse, forcible touching, assault, battery, intentional and reckless infliction of emotional distress, duress, false imprisonment, and defamation. And it's just 10 pages. So this is a complaint filed by the Jane Doe. There are also 3 declarations that were attached to this complaint, and those declarations are pretty much affidavits from the victims, or people that knew of the acts that took place or the events that took place, and it's like testifying on somebody's behalf. Uh, let's see. So both of them was citizens of the state of New York. Plaintiff was a citizen in the state of California. Let's see. The amount was over $75,000 for this particular court. All right, so here are the allegations. Um, all right, so we're gonna start with this one. Plaintiff was subject to acts of rape, misconduct, criminal acts, abuse, forcible touching, assault, battery, intentional and reckless infliction of emotional distress, duress, false imprisonment, and threats of unaliving and or serious bodily injury by the defendants that took place at several parties during the summer months of 1994. Now, mind you, based off of the article, she was an aspiring model at the age of 13. What parent is not monitoring their child and letting them go to parties where older men and women are? Make that part make sense. The parties were held by defendant Epstein at a New York City residence that was being used by defendant Epstein at 9 East 71st Street in Manhattan. During this period, plaintiff was a minor of age 13 and was legally incapable under New York law of consenting to intercourse and the other acts or contacts detailed herein. And that is definitely a violation of the New York Penal Code. The grapes in the first, second, and third degrees, misconduct, criminal acts in the first, second, and third degrees, abuse in the first, second, and third degrees, forcible touching, and on information and belief, predatory essaying. All of that detailed herein are unlawful under the New York law. And it constitutes the torts of inter alia, assault, battery, false imprisonment, and intentional or reckless infliction of emotional distress, including threats of force and serious bodily harm under the New York law. Let's see. Just kind of stating that she is, because she was a minor, um, she was a victim under the violations of 18 of the United States Code, sections 1591, 2421, 2422, and 2423, and she suffered personal injury as a result of those violations. Declarations, as I said before, is from 3 young ladies, and they are attached, and I will be going over them. They use pseudonyms, so their real name was not um, blasted for the world to see. Oh, hold on. I gotta turn off my night light for my computer. Okay. Going into, let's see. Okay, so we have a witness. Ooh, 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 ooh. All right, so here I'm gonna read this instead of just skipping over it. Declaration of plaintiff Jane Doe. That's the lady that filed the suit. Declaration of Tiffany Doe and declaration of Joan Doe. Uh, let's see. So Tiffany, who is a witness, was an employee of Epstein. Mm. Joan Doe is a witness, was a childhood classmate of plaintiff who in 1994-1995 school year and was told by plaintiff that plaintiff was subject to contact by the defendants at the parties in New York City during the summer of 1994. So we'll get into those. Let's see. This court has discretion to hear these cases under certain laws. All right. And this is crazy because at the end of the day, this is what gets those people who are aspiring to be in, the entertainment industry, the music industry. That's what they feed off of. They see someone who's looking for an opportunity and they feel that they're going to do any and everything to get to where they are. And this is exactly, especially at a 13-year-old. I got kids younger than that, and I know how they little minds work. But not like to the point where, oh my God, I'm just going to take the first thing coming because I'm nosy and I'm going to be in my kid's life. But that's what they preyed on. Plaintiff was enticed by promises of money and a modeling career to attend a series of parties with other similarly situated, wow, minor females held at a New York City residence that was being used by defendant Jeffrey Epstein. At least four of the parties were attended by Donald Trump. Exhibits A and B, and I will look at that. On information and belief, by this time in 1994, defendant Trump had known Epstein for 7 years. He did report back in 2002, and this is what I was saying. He said, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from the speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. And knew that the plaintiff was then just 13 years old. Trump initiated contact with the plaintiff at four different parties. On the fourth and final encounter with Donald Trump, defendant Trump tied plaintiff to a bed, exposed himself to plaintiff, and then proceeded to forcibly grape plaintiff. During the course of his savage attack, plaintiff loudly pleaded with Donald Trump to stop, but with no effect. Defendant Trump responded to the plaintiff's pleas by violently striking plaintiff in the face with his open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted to. Immediately following the grape, defendant Trump threatened plaintiff that were she ever to reveal any of the details of the and physical abuse of her by Trump, plaintiff and her family would be physically harmed if not unalived. Defendant Epstein had contact with plaintiff at two parties. What two of the parties? The second encounter with defendant Epstein took place after plaintiff had been raped by defendant Trump. Defendant Epstein forced himself upon plaintiff and proceeded to grape her. Oh man. Despite her loud plea to stop. Her loud pleas to stop. Defendant Epstein then attempted to strike plaintiff with about the head with his closed fist while he angrily screamed at plaintiff that he, defendant Epstein, rather than defendant Trump, should have been the one who took plaintiff's virginity before plaintiff finally managed to break away from Epstein. The threats of violence against plaintiff and her family continued, this time from defendant Epstein, who again reiterated that plaintiff was not to reveal any of the details of his abuse of her, or else specifically plaintiff and her family would be seriously harmed, if not unalived. While still under threats and physical harm by coming forward, and no reason to believe that the threats have ever been lifted or would ever be lifted, plaintiff, who has suffered from stress, emotional distress, mental pain, and suffering, among other problems, ever since the assaults, was subject to daily painful reminders of the horrific acts of one of the perpetrators, Donald Trump, via mass media coverage of him starting on or about June 16th. Because, mind you, guys, this man is running for the presidency during that time. So, every time, everywhere she looked, this man is on your TV screen or in on a newspaper or online, and you have to be reminded of this every single day. um and like I said, it was continuous and unavoidable. As a direct and proximate result of the SAs and grapes perpetrated by defendants upon her, plaintiff has suffered stress, emotional distress, mental pain, and suffering, as well as adverse physical consequences. As directed, let me see. Yeah, so she suffered stress, emotional distress, mental pain, suffering, physical pain, and suffering. Um, she's been subject to public scorn, hatred, ridicule, suffered threats against her life and physical safety, incurred special damages, including medical and legal expenses. These acts that were perpetrated by the defendants upon plaintiff were intentional. They demonstrated willful, reckless, intentional conduct that raises a conscious indifference to consequences. Let's see. And she's asserting a claim for punitive damages against defendants in order to punish defendants for their actions and to deter defendants from repeating their conduct. Now, a lot of people is like, okay, so this happened when she was 13. It's 2000 and what? So she was talking about that happened 1994. She was 13. Obviously, we know that she's way older than that. How does this work so many years after? Here's the statute of limitations. So, any statute of limitations applicable to rape, misconduct, criminal acts, abuse, forcible touching, assault, battery, intentional, and reckless infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment of a minor is told owing to the continuous and active duress imposed upon the plaintiffs by defendant that effectively rob plaintiff of her free will to commence legal action until the present time. More particularly, plaintiff was unrelentingly threatened by each defendant that were she ever to reveal any of the details of the abuse carried out by the defendants, that her and her family would be physically harmed if not unalived. The duress has not terminated, meaning that it was still ongoing, and her fear has not gone away. The duress is an element or an uh, inherent in the underlying cause of action complained herein. Duress and coercion exerted by defendants has been such as to have actual deprived plaintiff of her freedom of will to institute suit earlier in time, and it rose to such a level that a person of reasonable firmness in the plaintiff's situation would have been unable to resist. So it's just basically saying like this, they were threatening her and she was in fear, and that's why she did not come forward, because she was scared of what was going to happen. Both defendants, let's see, both defendants let plaintiff know that each was a very wealthy, powerful man and indicated that they had power, ability, and means to carry out their threats. Indeed, Donald Trump, defendant Trump, stated that the plaintiff shouldn't ever say anything if she didn't want to disappear like Maria, a 12-year-old female that was forced to be involved in the third incident with Donald Trump, and that the plaintiff had not since that third incident, and that he was capable of having her whole family unalived. That the duress had prevented plaintiff from starting litigation before this year. However, as soon as she surfaced, she received threats. More specifically, shortly after her first complaint was filed in California, April 26, 2016, she started receiving threatening phone calls on her cell phone. Defendants are equitably stopped from arguing that any statute of limitations has not been told, as defendants wrongfully forced plaintiff to refrain from timely commencing this action by threats, duress, and other misconduct. Moreover, this action has been brought before the facts giving rise to the estoppel have ceased to be operational, while still under threats of physical harm by coming forth and having no reason to believe that the threats have ever been lifted or would ever be lifted. And since plaintiff has decided to seek redress at this time, plaintiff seeks an order of protection in favor of plaintiff and all associated with her so as to protect them from harm and harassment from defendants and their agents and associates. This is so sad. Defamation. On information and belief on or about April 28, 2016, defendant Trump provided the following statement to American Media Inc. and or Radar Online LLC for publication on at least their website, radaronline.com. Plaintiff's complaint ED, and that's the file number, filed in the United States District Court for the Central Division of California. This is what he states. The allegations are not only categorically false, but disgusting at the highest level and clearly framed to solicit media attention or perhaps are simply political motivated. There is absolutely no merit to these allegations, period. The statement provided for publication by Donald Trump was published by said website and has been republished elsewhere in whole or in part numerous times. And similar statements from an attorney for defendant Trump were also published, including on September 22nd, 2016, by Courthouse News Service. The statements provided for publication by Donald Trump and his agent and that were published by said websites are false as they pertain to plaintiff. Because you know it gets ugly in the streets if you try to go against Donald Trump. The published statements are libelous on their face and clearly expose plaintiffs to hatred, contempt, ridicule, and obloquy. Because of all of that has happened, she has suffered a loss of her reputation, shame, mortification, and injury to her feelings, all to her damage and amount to be established by proof at trial. The above described publications were not privileged because they were published by Donald Trump and his agent with malice, hatred, and ill will toward plaintiff and the desire to injure her. As a direct and proximate cause, a result of Donald Trump defamation to plaintiff. Plaintiff has been subjected to public scorn, hatred, and ridicule and has suffered other injuries. So here, this is just her relief that she is, well, at that time, uh, her she was seeking a judgment for special damages, punitive, compensatory, in the excess of $75,000, which include interest and costs. She wanted all of her litigation, attorney fees, all of that to be paid, and that she received an order of protection to cover not only her, but everyone that was associated with her, to protect her from harm and harassment from the defendants and any of their associates or anybody in relation to them, and also whatever relief that the court deemed as just and proper. So that was filed September 30th, 2016. So September, October, November, so 2 months. So this last one was filed 2 months prior to Trump winning the election in 2016. But now we got to hop in. So let's take a look at the declarations, and I am going to put them in order right quick. Let's see. Hold on, let me, because I have to put my watermark up. Let me add that right quick. So yeah, this is wild. I definitely want to know what you guys think. We are in election season right now. Trump has been charged with 34 felony counts, 34 felony counts. And somehow, some way, this man is still able to run for presidency. One thing that me and my sister was discussing, because she asked me, and I haven't even researched it, but Project 25, if you do not know what that is, I want you guys to Google it, but put in Project 25 summary, because Project 2025 is a 900 plus page plan of how they want Donald Trump to pretty much take over the federal government. So pretty much it's, you have your judicial branch, legislative, executive, and they all have the separations of power. No branch is greater than the other. This is a plan to pretty much get rid of the federal government, get rid of um, homosexuals, having women carry their babies to term, and no more transgender or what is the other? I forgot what they said. Non-binary, that will not exist anymore. So it's an actual plan, a mass deportation. My thing in my head that I'm asking, how, like, it's 900 pages plus. So they actually have a plan to how they're going to execute each of those, like the mass deportation, the getting rid of homosexuality, so on and so forth. It is wild. It is wild. I don't even want to shed light on that really, because I was about to say, well, I should do a segment on that, but I don't even want no parts of that. I honestly do not, because that just seems like, I don't know. The way America's going, I might move to Canada. Who knows? All right, back to the topic. All right, so this is the declaration of the young lady who actually filed the lawsuit. And when I start getting into Jeffrey Epstein's, you're going to see a lot of declaration from young women that came forward. And it's so sad that, they really didn't get the justice that they deserved. But here is the account of what happened from the young lady who was a victim. Let's see. That's normal. Okay. I was subject to extremes, that word, and physical abuse by defendants, including forcible rape that took place at several parties of defendant Epstein's during the summer of 1994 in New York City at the residence used by defendant Epstein. During this period, I was 13 years old. More particularly, I traveled by bus to New York City in June 1994 in the hope of starting a modeling career. I went to several modeling agencies, but was told that I needed to put together a modeling portfolio before I would be considered. I then went to the Port Authority in New York City to start oh my gosh, I can't talk. In New York City to start to make my way back home. There I met a woman who introduced herself to me as Tiffany. She told me about the parties, and I said that if I would join her at the parties, I would be introduced to people who could get me into the modeling profession. Tiffany also told me I would be paid for attending. Now, she is 13 years old. One, where are your parents? The parties were held at New York City residence that was being used by defendant Jeffrey Epstein. Each of the parties had other minor females and a number of guests of Mr. Epstein, including defendant Donald Trump at four parties I attended. I understood that both Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. Defendant Trump had contact with me at four different parties in the summer of 1994. On the fourth and final encounter with Donald Trump tied me to a bed, exposed himself to me, and then proceeded to forcibly grape me. During the course of the savage attack, I loudly pleaded with Donald Trump to stop, but he did not. Donald Trump responded to my pleas by violently striking me in the face and with his open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted. Immediately following this grape, defendant Trump threatened me that were I ever to reveal any of the details that Donald Trump's abuse of me, my family, and I would be physically harmed, if not unalive. Defendant Epstein had contact with me on at two of the parties that summer. On the second occasion involving defendant Epstein forced himself upon me and proceeded to grape me, despite my loud pleas to stop. Defendant Epstein then attempted to strike me about the head with his closed fist while he angrily screamed at me that he, Defendant Epstein, should have been one who took my virginity, not Donald Trump, before I finally managed to break away from Defendant Epstein. Immediately following the grape, just like Donald Trump, Defendant Epstein threatened me not to reveal any of the details of Defendant Epstein's abuse of me, or else my family and I would be physically harmed, if not unalived. Let's see. And this is just pretty much saying, let's see. This is saying the same thing that she said in the complaint. So I'm not going to read any of that. Let's see. I'll start here. The duress had prevented me from starting litigation before this year. However, as soon as I surfaced, I received threats. More specifically, shortly after my first complaint was filed in California on April 26, 2016. I started receiving threatening phone calls on a cell phone I then owned. The calls were never more than 20 seconds or so before they hung up, and they were always from a blocked or unavailable phone number according to my caller ID feature. Since I changed phone numbers, the threatening calls have completely stopped. The litigation involves matters that are highly sensitive and of a personal nature, and I believe that identification of me would pose a risk of retaliatory physical harm to me and to others. I have no reason to believe that defendant's threats have ever been lifted or will be lifted, and so I request the courts issue an order protecting me and my family from harm and harassment by the defendants. So that's by the victim. Here is Tiffany. So Tiffany is the individual that invited her to the parties. I originally met Jeffrey Epstein in New York City in 1990 when I was at the age of 22. I attended series of parties in that same year of 1990 where I was paid to entertain various guests of Mr. Epstein. In 1991, I was promoted to the occupation of party planner, in which my duties were to get attractive adolescent women to attend these parties. I was hired by and paid directly by Mr. Epstein from the years of 1991 to 2000 to attract adolescent women to attend these parties, most of which were held at what is known as the Wexner Mansion, located at this address in New York City. In 1994, while performing my duties as a recruiter of adolescent women to attend Mr. Epstein parties, I met a 13-year-old adolescent woman. Uh, she's not a woman, she's a girl. She's a 13-year-old girl. The plaintiff in this matter at the Port Authority in New York City, who said that she had come to New York City in hope of starting a modeling career. I persuaded the plaintiff to attend a series of parties of Mr. Epstein and took place during the summer of 1994. I told her that if she would come join me at the parties, she would be introduced to people who could get her into the modeling profession and she would be paid for attending. It was at these series of parties that I personally witnessed the plaintiff being forced to perform various acts with Donald Trump and Mr. Epstein. Both Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein were advised that she was 13 years old. I personally witnessed four encounters that the plaintiff was forced to have with Mr. Trump during this period, including the fourth of these encounters where Mr. Trump forcibly raped her despite her pleas to stop. I personally witnessed the one occasion where Mr. Trump forced the plaintiff and a 12-year-old female named Maria to perform on Mr. Trump and witnessed this physical abuse of both minors when they finished the act. I personally witnessed or was made immediately aware of two occasions where my boss, Mr. Epstein, attempted to grape and sodomize the plaintiff. I personally witnessed Mr. Epstein abusing other minor females, even younger than her. It was my job to personally witness and supervise encounters between the underage girls that Mr. Epstein hired and his guests. You should have been sued too. You should have been included in this lawsuit. I personally witnessed Mr. Trump physically threaten the life and well being of the plaintiff if she ever revealed any details of the physical and abuse suffered by her at the hands of Trump. I witnessed Mr. Epstein physically threaten the life and well being of the plaintiff if she ever revealed the details of the physical and abuse she suffered at the hands of Mr. Epstein or any of his guests. I personally witnessed Donald Trump telling the plaintiff that she should never say anything, and if she didn't want to disappear like the 12-year-old female Maria, and that he was capable of having her whole family unalive. I need to know who this Maria is. Because if you're saying that if she didn't want to disappear like the 12-year-old, who is Maria? I'm about to go look at missing children during that time. I sure hope there was a case on this. After leaving the employment of Mr. Epstein in the year 2000, I was personally threatened by Mr. Epstein that I would be unalived and my family unalive as well if I ever disclose any of the physical and abuse of minor females that I had personally witnessed by Mr. Epstein or any of his guests. I'm coming forward to swear of the truthfulness and the physical and abuse that I personally witnessed of minor females at the hands of Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein, including the plaintiff during my time of the employment during the years of 1990 and 2000 for Mr. Epstein. I swear to the facts under penalty of perjury, even though I fully understand that the life of my family and myself and my family is now in grave danger. And she submitted this June 18th, 2016. The last person is I'm assuming a friend of, or was a friend at the time of the plaintiff. Let's see. And she just stating that in 1994-95 school year, I was told by plaintiff and Jane Doe, this case, that the plaintiff was subject to contact by defendants at parties in New York City during the summer of 1994. This is just pretty much saying that she told her about it. And so she is one of the persons that were told. So there's nothing really to say on that one. This is I really don't even know what to say at this point. Other than that, this is weird. It mentions other females. It mentioned a girl that supposedly or allegedly went missing because I'm assuming she told what happened at those parties. I have so many questions. There is a video out there where it shows Trump and Epstein at a party, and all you see is these young women just dancing. Why are two grown men at this type of party, or why would y'all have a party and invite young adolescent girls? Because they're not women, they are girls, they are babies, they are teenagers. And so these are the type of people that we have. Now, I'm not saying that uh, non-wealthy people don't do this, because there's weird people in every aspect of this world. But for two grown men, and it already came out about Epstein, so I don't put anything past Donald Trump. I don't. We talked about Diddy and his white parties. Look at Jacob the jeweler, and God knows who else. I can't wait for Discovery to come along so that way we can get more information. I need lists, I need call logs, because Donald Trump was at these white parties as well. He was at events with Diddy. It's all I'm telling y'all, it's a rabbit hole. I promise you, this stuff with Diddy, it's deeper than this. We thought it was deep with Epstein, but look what happened. Diddy then came out. Now, as far as Trump, I don't know how this is going to work. This is a 34 count felon that is currently in the presidential race, and he thinks that he is going to win presidency of the United States again. This man cannot get in office. And I'm not just talking about his craziness, I'm talking about the things that he has done. He's a felon and he is a pedo. And I done said that. I'm saying that right now. If you are messing with underage girls, it's already confirmed that Epstein has done this. It's confirmed. It's out there. It is out there. Tell me what you guys think about this. Um I I don't even know what to say. I'm like, the qualifications of a president just really went out the window. We have a whole case this young lady has filed. This was her third or fourth time filing, and she voluntarily dismissed this case 4 days before Trump was elected president of the United States. That is weird. Don't you guys find that weird as well? Tell me what you think. Share your thoughts. Let's talk about this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, y'all be blessed. I'm out.